Hello everybody, today we're diving into painting Ultramarines in a Grimdark style. Faithful to the spirit of Warhammer 40,000, yet with a couple of twists. First, I aim to average about an hour per model when I want to. Efficiency is key when I'm building an army, but I also love taking my time to turn characters into display-worthy pieces. So, this technique has to be versatile, whether you're speed painting or indulging in precision. Second, we're sticking strictly to acrylics today, no oils or enamel washes. Let's prove that we can achieve top-tier results with just acrylic paints. We're going to start with a 50-50 mix of Rhinox hide and Mournfang brown for the base coat. This is going to give us a solid foundation for weathering later, as its reddish brown tones beautifully contrast with the iconic ultramarine blue. To transform these Space Marines into Ultramarines, we're going to sponge on our first blue layer, targeting the raised areas where light naturally falls. We're going to let the brown base coat peek through just in the recesses. Think of this as a battle-worn underlayer of paint, showing the wear and tear from centuries of brutal service to the Emperor. Using a sponge creates random, natural patterns that scream gritty realism. Remember, in the Grimdark future, deliberate brushstrokes are for those Eldar artists, not battle-hardened Astartes. Once you're satisfied, grab a brush to clean up any hard-to-reach spots, like under the bolters or around arms, and just stipple it on. Now we'll add highlights using Pro Acryl's Blue, or Games Workshop's Macragge Blue. This step brightens the armor while giving it shape. For best results, go and apply this in two passes, one to establish a mid-layer, and then the second pass to establish your kind of first highlight and a bit brighter. It's a subtle but effective way to enhance depth, ensuring your Marines look like they've been blessed by Gilliman himself, or at least a tech priest. The Ultramarines are the poster boys of the Imperium, a shining example of discipline, strategy, and an unquestionable loyalty to the Emperor. Hailing from the world of Macragge, they follow the teachings of their Primarch Rabute Gilliman, who literally wrote the book on being a Space Marine, the Codex Astartes. Known for their adaptability and precision, they're the Swiss Army knife of the Adeptus Astartes, but don't let their clean-cut image fool you. Beneath their blue armor lies a relentless, battle-hardened force ready to purge Xenos, heretics, and anything else that threatens the Imperium's fragile existence. Our final highlight involves mixing in faded ultramarine with normal blue, about a 50-50 mix, sparingly to accentuate the brightest areas. Focus on our helmets, shoulder pads, knee pads, and then one sharp line along the leg sides. Remember, less is going to be more here. We're going for poster boys, not neon billboards. Let's double down on that Grimdark aesthetic by adding edge shadows with Rhinox hide. This is going to add depth and convey the Imperium's harsh truth. No one has time for repainting armor when Xenos and heretics threaten humanity's extinction. This isn't just battle damage, it's a badge of honor earned in endless war. All that we're going to do here is take a little bit of Rhinox hide in our brush, drag it along our edges, kind of around the lips of our leg panels, our shoulder panels, and our chest plates, just to add a little bit of extra depth and wear. Now for a Sergeant's red helmet, start with Mephiston Red, applying it with a stippling technique for texture. Stippling can be used across the whole model if you'd prefer, but brace yourself for a longer painting session. This is going to give a lot more precision, but the sponge is going to give a lot more randomness and time. Some days it is satisfying to take your time, other days you just want to turn out a squad. Both approaches honor the hobby and the Omnissiah as well. Now, why the red helmet? During the Horus Heresy, Sergeant Aenid Thiel earned this mark of censure for suggesting contingency plans against potential betrayal by fellow Space Marines. At the time, this was ruled as an impossibility and as a heretical thought, which, fast forward a couple years, probably not the best idea. Now we hit the Battle of Kolth. The Word Bearers surprise the Ultramarine forces and end up wiping out the majority of the planet. Theo's foresight saves countless lives against the word bearers, prompting Gilman to elevate the red helmet as a symbol of honor. From punishment to prestige, only in Warhammer 40k does bureaucratic irony lead to battlefield glory. Now, once we have a couple layers of Mephiston Red down, we're going to slowly work in Evil Sun Scarlet. When doing this, I like to focus just towards the center stripe that we've established here. We have two distinct areas, one on the actual ridge of the helmet, and the second on the kind of crown of it. Now for this, we've slowly worked up the colors as you can see. From there, just go ahead and introduce that Evil Sun Scarlet just in the middle in a sparing dotted pattern, just to give it a little bit of texture and variation, as well as brighten it up quite a bit. It'll act as dot highlights and scratches. For Armor Trim and Aquila, we're going to base coat this with Retributor Gold. These wouldn't be Ultramarines without the blue and gold, so gotta ensure we get that second part. Two passes of this are going to ensure full coverage. When working with Citadel's metallic paints, I really prefer 2 coats. If you do any less than that, it can lead to spotty results. For our belts and leather details, we're going to use Rhinox hide and a Mournfang brown mix at about a 50-50. This is going to create a harmonious connection between the armor and these details, while also serving as a great starting point for weathered, beaten up leather. For the first highlighting step, we're going to add spot highlights with Mournfang Brown, focusing on the edges, and then we're also going to add a few thin scratches to simulate wear and tear. Just make sure that you have your paint watered down a little bit, and then you can just gently drag it across the tip, and that'll give you your nice scratches. And for the final highlight on our leather, we're going to use XV88. This ochre tone brings a weathered look to the leather, and it emphasizes its beaten up state with adding a little bit of color variation. For our bolters, we're going to use a beat up brush to stipple the Mechanicus Standard Gray. This adds a weathered look without overshadowing the armor. And once the stippling is done, we're going to use some freehand of some small scratches and chips for some extra detail. So the reason I'm using this beat up brush, I wanted to show that you can also use, any sort of like flat and destroyed brush to do the same effect. You could easily do a sponge here as well, but if you don't have that, you can use a brush for either the actual main armor or this. So go ahead and shade your gold details with Reichland Flesh Shade. This is going to bring in warmth and really just reinforce that deep gold color in the recesses. This also complements the coolness of our blue armor beautifully. The two play off each other really well. That's a great result. For all of our remaining metallics, we're going to base coat with Pro Acryl's Dark Silver. As discussed previously in other videos, much prefer the Pro Acryl metallics. They just work a little bit better in my opinion, better coverage, less coats, all that good stuff. So we're going to use this for our bolter muzzles, our chainsword teeth, and any other small metal accent parts. Now onto our purity seals. For the parchment, go ahead and base coat with Xandri dust, and then highlight with Screaming Skull. For the actual seals themselves, we're going to end up mixing Corn Red and Screamer Pink to create a burgundy color. And then just after that, just give it a nice light shade with Nuln Oil, and you have your final result. Now to finish off our armor weathering, we're going to edge highlight most of the armor with dark silver to represent exposed metal. We're going to focus on the corners and edges. And these are the areas that are going to see the most wear and tear on a battlefield. Whether you bonk your head off something or something just flies by and nicks your knee pad, this is where we're going to see the damage. So this also just introduces a nice little bit of shining contrast to the cold blue armor. We're going to go ahead and use Black Legion contrast paint for the fine text on our parchment and on our purity seals. All you have to do is apply a tiny amount to a wet palette and use a detail brush, just anything with a very fine and sharp tip for precise, clean lines. For our shoulder pads, we're going to freehand our chapter symbols. This is in two parts, going to help us out. So one, it keeps our battle-worn aesthetic. It really allows us to tailor this exactly how we want it and how to shape it on the shoulder pad. This hands-on approach also adds kind of a personal touch to your models. Maybe in my headcanon for this army, they've been out on crusade for a very long time, and instead of maintaining the rest of their armor, they've decided to personally maintain their chapter symbols and just respect the honor of their chapter. After doing the meticulous freehanding your designs, let's ruin it. Go ahead and lightly sponge over them with a mid-tone blue to tie the symbols into the armor's worn aesthetic. Less is going to be more here, just very lightly tap the edges. You want to get a couple in the middle of the designs, but mostly focus on the edges, just where the paint would kind of be peeling off and revealing the blue underneath. And now we're in the home stretch. For our lenses, we're going to start with moot green as our base tone. Make sure to get this all throughout and a solid covering. So we got that. We're going to add a small amount of white scar to each lens, focusing that it just actually stays on the lens bit, not within the recesses. This is going to set up our next step perfectly. And we'll finish our lenses with a touch of Gauss green for a bright, vibrant pop. Make sure that this gets all the way through the recesses and everything on this. It's going to give an intense, glowing effect that contrasts beautifully against our gritty armor. And there we have it, the Angels of Death painted as Grimdark Ultramarines. They're vibrant yet battle-worn, and these Marines perfectly embody the Imperium's aesthetic contradictions: decay and beauty, grit and glory. This whole project took about 6 hours, and it really proved that you can balance detail with efficiency while enjoying the whole process. Honestly, you could sit down in an afternoon and do these. It's perfectly relaxing. It's a great time. If you like this tutorial, please consider liking, subscribing, and letting me know in the comments what you'd like to see painted next, whether it be in this style or something new. Until then, I will catch you guys later. Have a good one.